We got to talk about a new destination and a new trade target in a Jonathan Kuminga sign and trade this offseason. But before we do, put your GM hat on for me and go down below to the comment section and comment your ideal Jonathan Kuminga sign and trade package. What do you guys think he's worth? I want to hear from Dub Nation. What's going on, Dub Nation? You're watching Warriors Today by Chat Sports. I am your host, Tyler Smith, and on today's show, we're going to explore a new Jonathan Kuminga sign-and trade idea, and that's going to be sending him to the Chicago Bulls. And for those of you who've been watching the show for a while, we've long mocked many a trades with the Chicago Bulls, but never for the player that we're going to be talking about on today's show. Most of the time, it's for Nikola Vucevic, but we're going to be looking to the backcourt in Chicago to be kind of helping Golden State's scoring output just a little bit more. And just for a little bit of exposition before we get into the actual trade scenario and the player that we're targeting on the program, the Athletic, Marcus Thompson II, and Anthony Slater have already reported early this offseason that the Golden State Warriors and Jonathan Kuminga will be exploring sign-and trade options this offseason. However, we know that Joe Lacob, the owner of the Golden State Warriors, has an affinity for Jonathan Kuminga and is likely to not let him walk for nothing. So even though he could go to a team like the Brooklyn Nets to absorb a bunch of cap space there and he can get a big deal, I do think that Joe Lacob will probably end up threatening to match any deal that Jonathan Kuminga goes out there and signs in hopes of recuperating some assets back to Golden State. And this all kind of came to a head when Steve Kerr went on a 48-hour media tour and said this on Tim Kawakami's podcast. He said, "I've been asked to win, and right now he's not a guy I can say I'm going to play 38 minutes with the roster that we have, Steph, Jimmy, and Draymond, and put the puzzle together that way and expect to win." And right off the bat, I want to make it very clear that he's saying this in all basketball terms only. This is all basketball related. He said on a personal level that Jonathan Kuminga and Steve Kerr have a great relationship with each other, and this is all just business and fitting puzzle pieces in the puzzle at the end of the day. And at this point, it just doesn't seem like Jonathan Kuminga is going to do that. And now a lot of Warriors fans on Twitter are like, "Oh, he said 38 minutes. Well, you can play 25." Well, I don't really want to pay a guy $25 million who's only going to play 25 minutes. Honestly, I want that to be starter level money, and I don't know if Jonathan Kuminga could start with this crew at this point. And just for both sides, it just feels like the best case scenario is a sign and trade. Golden State gets some assets back, and Kuminga is able to have a fresh start elsewhere. And I'm sure the Warriors will let Kuminga and his representation go out and find a destination that they feel comfortable going and signing with, and then the Warriors will be able to figure out a deal with that organization. An NBA scout told ESPN the best thing that happens to him is if they sign and trade him. And I don't want to come on every single show where we talk about this idea and just rag on Kuminga, because I do think that there is a good basketball player in there. I just don't think it's with a team like the Warriors, with the amount of structure that they have. It needs to be more free-flowing. Jonathan Kuminga needs to have the ball in his hands a whole heck of a lot, and he just won't have that opportunity with the Dubs. Steve Kerr did say this as well. He said, "I think there's got to be a part of JK that thinks about going elsewhere." Yeah, when you're DMPing him in the last couple of games of the season, of course he would think about going elsewhere. He probably already envisions himself in a new city come this fall, and it makes total sense, right? Because Kuminga should believe in himself. In the opportunities that he's gotten, especially the opportunities before he got hurt back in January, he was putting up the numbers that Warriors fans were anticipating this season. The 10 games before he suffered that ankle sprain, he was putting up over 20 points a game. He was shooting the three ball at an efficient clip, which means he was shooting it with confidence. I feel like a lot of the reason that Kuminga's production dips when he's put in these weird situations is because his confidence is just in the gutter. And when he was given the keys to go out there and produce, he put up some solid numbers. But at the end of the day, the Warriors weren't winning those games, and I just don't think he's going to be the winningest player when it comes to Golden State's championship pursuits over the next 2 seasons. But with that being said, I have no ill will towards Kuminga. I hope he has a ton of success, whatever stop he has next in his NBA career. And if you want to wish him well and you want Kuminga to get a fresh start elsewhere, go down below and hit that thumbs up icon, show him some love, and let him know that Dub Nation has his back. When we look at what Golden State needs on the basketball court, as far as translating this to what Chicago can bring Golden State in a trade, well, Golden State obviously needs size in the front court, and the player that we're talking about today isn't going to address that, but I do think that Golden State could still make improvements in that area elsewhere this offseason. What about shot creation? We're going to address that. Ball handling. I do think that too many players on Golden State's roster have been thrust into situations that they're not necessarily capable of handling at a really high level. Is Brandon Bajemski the best on-ball player for Golden State? I feel like he's more of a connecting piece than a guy who can dominate the rock. Buddy Hield was thrust into that role as well, and granted that was due to Steph's injury and whatnot, but I don't want him having the ball in his hands for long stretches either. Steph, you want him to be off of the ball as much as possible, and even with Draymond Green and his offensive capabilities at this point, I don't know if he's the best to be dominating the rock. So you need more ball handling, you need more shot creation, you need more floor spacing overall. There's too many times this postseason that Golden State just could not hit shots, and they went on super long stretches of scoring droughts. That just can't happen anymore. And with the amount of production and the effort that Steph and Jimmy are putting in at this point, some other guys need to come up and pick up the slack. And they also need a point of attack defender. I'm not sure if that will be addressed in today's trade idea, but they're going to need somebody who can defend on the ball. GP2, we saw him kind of decrease in that department as the postseason went on. He was kind of getting fried by a bunch of guards. And Moses Moody, he's just so up and down when it comes to whether or not he can even get out there on the floor for Golden State. So they need another guy who can go out there and defend in the backcourt as well. So as far as the trade idea that we're talking about with the Chicago Bulls today, it's going to address a couple of those needs for Golden State. We're bringing Coby White to the Bay Area, the hot shot scoring point guard from the Chicago Bulls, and sending Jonathan Kuminga over there. And remember, to make a Jonathan Kuminga sign and trade work, he goes out for basically double of what Golden State can bring back in when you want to match salaries for a trade. So if he was to go to Chicago, he'd be making around $25 million, where Coby White is on a $12.5 million expiring deal this coming season. So it also could be a rental in a sense. If Coby White doesn't work out, you just get off the money and still have some financial flexibility for next offseason. And firstly, if you guys just want to kill me in the comment section saying, oh, the Bulls would never trade Coby White for Jonathan Kuminga. Well, first of all, the Bulls are directionless. Like, nobody knows where they're going. They also have zero wing talent on the roster whatsoever. They have Matas Buzelis playing the 4 spot right now. And outside of that, I couldn't even name a player that has their primary position listed as small forward or power forward on the Bulls at this point. So they need a guy like Kuminga who can go out there and fill up the stat sheet in the scoring department on that wing, somebody who can penetrate the rim. And Golden State needs a player who can just fill it up as well, but provide a little bit more of a confident ball handling and floor spacing ability. And that is what Coby White can go out there and do. He is an absolute microwave, man. Could he start? Maybe, but I think his best role probably would be off of the bench for Golden State. He could be the 6th man of the year if you ran him off the bench for the Dubs, and he's running that second unit. He can get great penetration at the rim. He can hit the 3 basically from everywhere on the basketball court, and not only off the catch, but with the ball in his hands as well. He had a super high usage rate in Chicago this past season, and that's music to my ears, because we know with Steph being a 37-year-old player and Jimmy being a 36-year-old player this coming season, like, you're going to need somebody to, especially during an 82-game regular season where we want Steph and Jimmy to be as healthy and as ready to go for the postseason as possible. You need a guy who can pick up the slack in games 30 through 60 in those December, January months to be a big scoring help for times where, maybe Jimmy and Steph, they're taking some nights off. Like, are we going to see those guys playing 65 games the next 2 seasons? I'm not so sure that's the case. And if Golden State needs to win games during those stretches, Coby White's a guy who can go out there and do it single-handedly. He's put up multiple 40-point games last season. He's put up 35-point games. There's a stretch of the season where he averaged 30 points a night. Like, he can do this on his own, and that's what I love about adding a player like that to Golden State. Like, when Steph and Jimmy go to the bench, they need a guy who can just go out there and get buckets at the end of the day, and that's what Coby White can do. Catch and shoots last year, 38.5%. Pull-up threes, good enough for me. That is above league average on pull-up three-pointers. Also, step-back threes, way above average, 37%. He took 81 attempts on step-backs last year. Look, that doesn't necessarily fall in line with the Golden State offensive philosophy. He is an isolation scorer in that aspect, but you know what? How about they switch it up a little bit when Steph and Jimmy go to the bench and they're not running as much off-ball actions. Above the break 3 on 500 attempts, he shot 37.5%. This is a confident shooter, and is somebody who can get into a role and get hot during the stretches where Golden State goes ice cold. And like I said before, there's this 10-game stretch back in March. He puts up 30 points a night. And yeah, it's not the most efficient. I'm sure he's chucking a good number of threes and attempts overall from the field, but he can fill it up in the scoring department, man. And Golden State just needs more players who can put the ball in the basket. Too often during the postseason, they could not. So while the Warriors make this trade, Jonathan Kuminga does not fit on this roster, plain and simple. And maybe you guys could call me a hypocrite in a sense of what I'm saying Coby White's role could be as somebody who the Golden State can kind of mold their offense around in the second unit, well, they don't have to completely change things. And Coby White is also a good decision maker. He comes from an elite system back in college playing for Roy Williams. And he's a smart basketball player. Like, he's not going to have tunnel vision in the way that Kuminga does. He's also going to provide other things, a scrappy point of attack defender. He's going to give you a ton of effort. I have no questions about Coby White's want to win and want to contribute to team success. I have question marks around that with Jonathan Kuminga, and I think he'd be a better overall fit. And when Steph and Jimmy sit on the bench, Golden State can no longer look like a CYO team, a group of elementary school basketball players. It's honestly insane. It looks like they're playing two different sports out there when Steph goes to the bench. I think Coby White can help that department a whole heck of a lot. While the Bulls do this trade, look, I'd be lying if I told you that trading away a 20-point per game scorer for Jonathan Kuminga straight up is a good idea for Chicago, but they need an injection of youth. They need somebody who's got untapped potential, and Jonathan Kuminga has that. Coby White also doesn't seem to be a part of their long-term plan, or else I feel like they would have already come to terms on an extension, and Kuminga can try to fill the void left by DeMar DeRozan a couple of seasons ago, where they have zero wings on this roster. They don't have a lot of off-the-bounce scoring either. Kuminga can get downhill. And they have a couple of decent shooters around that roster. You got Kevin Huerter in town as well. So there's something around Kuminga to be able to play his role or play his style of basketball. And I just don't think he fits in Golden State anymore. Bulls don't really have a premium draft pick either. So this is a 22-year-old with a lot of untapped potential that you're going to get on a decent contract, $25 million a year. Why don't they take a flyer on him when they don't look like they're going to be competing anytime soon in the Eastern Conference? And that's pretty embarrassing. Would you make this trade at the end of the day? 1-for-1. Look, Jonathan Kuminga could have a draft pick attached. Could Golden State offer up their 26th first round, or the 2026, first round pick with maybe a protection on it? That's a possibility, and I would honestly consider that. Would you? A for accept, D for decline. 1-for-1. Coby White coming to Golden State for Jonathan Kuminga in a sign and trade. Auto accept. I'm accepting it right now. Just get Coby White to the Bay Area if it means Jonathan Kuminga is the trade piece going back. There's been speculation on whether or not Golden State would want a package for a Nikola Vucevic and a Lonzo Ball and a draft pick, but I think the piece that contributes most right away and best in Golden State's system out of all these ideas that can come from Chicago is going to be Coby White. So I'm accepting this immediately, especially if I don't have to give up any draft capital. Subscribe to Golden State Warriors today. If anything like this goes down, or if the rumors start to heat up a little bit, we will keep you guys updated all offseason long. So lock us in as the #1 spot for Warriors content on YouTube. Hit that sub button. We'll see you guys all in the next one. And as always, let's go Dubs.